This is CBC Here and Now.
In 58 years, you haven't realized how long this has been going on?
I had the guts, probably more guts than brains, to stand in front of you guys and getting this mic.
These protesters say the province is part of the problem.
Outrage over pricing for this year's inshore fishery.
It was a beautiful spring day in parts of the province, but how long is this nice weather going to stick around?
I know for a fact I don't have the money to go to university and going with student loan. I don't want to have to pay money every month, every year, whatever, for the rest of my life, essentially.
Atlantic Canadians lead the nation when it comes to signing up for the military.
We'll learn why coming up.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Anthony Germain.
And I'm Carolyn Stokes. Well, people who fish for a living and their union are not happy about the prices they get or how those prices are set.
Hundreds gathered outside Confederation Building in St. John's today. The Minister of Fisheries faced off against angry protesters.
I think we're here to send a loud message, and if people didn't get it in meetings, they're going to damn well get the message today. We want some fairness in setting prices. That means real competition. That means transparency in setting prices.
Some people may think that this is a price issue for crab in 2022. Let me make it clear. There is a lot more than that issue. This is an issue to take control of the most valuable renewable resource that we have in this province, the inshore fishery.
All right, so I think there's one thing you can get clear out of today. You want somebody to blame, so put it on the shoulders of the man who carries the position of Minister of Fisheries. I saw someone down there with a sign say, support rural Newfoundland. I said, that's me. I'll live it. I'll live it. Will you let me have something to say? Because I listen to you guys. So if you want to echo, come down and take the mic. I'll stand back, take the mic. I would invite the ecklers to come up and take the microphone. Because I have big shoulders. I know this industry. I've lived in it all of my life. I live in Greenspan today. Many of my friends, if they're not here, would love to be here today. And I see this act of solidarity. I do. But you're blaming me and our government for the history of the fishery.
So in 58 years, you haven't realized how long this has been going on?
I've seen the fishery for
And what
58
has been
years,
done
sir.
about it? Diddly squat.
That's not fair to say.
It is fair. I've been at this 40 years. I haven't seen one bloody difference.
The panel was brought in a few
The
years
panel
ago
was brought in,
for
and
stability.
what is the percentages where it's in the processor's favor? I asked you that.
I think it's been like 80% in the FFAW's favor over the last number of years on the pricing on crab alone. 80%.
You're out to lunch.
Maybe 75.
For
Keith,
someone, look,
Keith,
for
can you
someone to
justify that? Where were you two? So I had the guts, probably more guts than brains, to stand in front of you guys and getting this mic.
You say you came up there standing in front of us to talk to us. Well, what the hell you got your job for? Rest we put you there for talk to us and do what we can do for us.
I can't understand how someone like you is supposed to be educated. You stand up and you say, on the eve of the fishery, and you have a price. It should be done, my buddy. If you were doing your job and the government was doing their job, this would already be done. It already be done. You should be ashamed of yourselves. The government in Newfoundland and Labrador should be absolutely ashamed of themselves and what they do to the people. And you shouldn't snore, boy. I don't know what you're about to be snoring about. I know what the all this about. I'll shove this down your f***ing throat. That's what I was saying.
I knew being a fishery minister this time of year is always, I would almost call it the witching hour. And everybody needs someone to be mad with, and I knew it's always the fishery minister. Someone once told me, you go to be the fisheries minister where good ministers go to die. That was told to me a long time ago. Because no good. Can you ever come in the history of fisheries ministers? You know anybody came out of this with a bouquet of flowers?
The problem is that government have not been listening. We've tried to have conversations, discussions, use logic, but nothing seems to be working. So people don't want to be out here today. They got a lot of work to do to prepare for a fishing season. but government are not listening. They're propping up 4 or 5 big fish companies and CEOs in this province, and fishermen are frustrated, and rightfully so.
Well, now to the West Coast, where about 150 fish harvesters and FFAW members attended a demonstration in Corner Brook this morning.
I ain't got no big quotas. I got enough to pay me installments, feed me family, and try to give me crew a decent share.
Now, the group marched from the Civic Centre to the Sir Richard Squires building, where the Premier's West Coast office is. Harvesters travelled from the tip of the Northern Peninsula, the Lewisport area, as well as the Southwest Coast to attend that demonstration. And they too were calling on government for fair prices in the fishery, especially for snow crab. The group says the Association of Seafood Producers is trying to divide FFAW members, and it's calling on the province to step in and ensure harvesters get a fair price.
We need to stand together. We got to have the harvesters, right? We got to have them in order to get product for our plants, and they got to have plant workers in order to do it. So we need one another. It's not going to work. And it's time for the government to step in and do what they got to do. Do what they're partnered to do.
Well, switching now to health news, it's another record high for the province. There are now 40 people in hospital due to COVID-19. That surpasses the previous record of 33, which was set just on Friday. Earlier this month, as the province was preparing to drop almost all public health restrictions, Dr. Janice Fitzgerald said the system should be able to manage between 40 to 60 hospital cases. The health department is also reporting 2 more deaths over the weekend. Both were in Central Health, a person in their 70s, as well as a person who is over 80. Today, 7 people in the province are in critical care because of COVID.
Well, NAPE says COVID is continuing to hit staff at hospitals and long-term care facilities hard. The union represents more than 6,000 healthcare workers in the province, and according to its president, about 1,000 of those workers are either isolating because of COVID contacts or staying away from work because they tested positive.
I don't think it's peaked. I think it's going to stay where it's at. I think since the mandates have been lifted a while ago, we're not getting accurate numbers of the actual COVID case in Newfoundland and Labrador, because now there's only certain people that are actually PCR tested. A lot of cases are not getting reported. So we are getting a pretty accurate account of healthcare workers because they're not able to show up at work. And I have fears in the weeks ahead that those numbers may actually increase.
Not a bad day out there for these last couple of days of March. Let's take a look at what's going on right now. We do have some systems that are moving in over the next couple of days. They're over the maritime provinces right now. But other than that, lots of sunshine in parts of the province, unfortunately. Not along the south coast. But as you can see, some of that colder air, though, through Ontario, even parts of the maritime provinces as well. Temperatures this afternoon in Ontario, -6 in Toronto today. And then as you head further east, those temperatures much nicer. 8 degrees is where we sat for a good chunk of the afternoon today. Unfortunately, this weather isn't going to stick around. We do have a system that's going to bring in some snow as we head through the afternoon tomorrow and into the overnight into Wednesday morning. I'll have the full forecast coming up.
All right, thanks, Ashley. Figured it was too good to last. Well, people in Labrador West have a new place to gather. It's a community space for the Status of Women Council that aims to be a hub for other support groups and classes. The CBC's Heidi Adder has that story.
People from ages 2 to 96 stopped by the grand opening of the new community space. After being in the works for 5 years, the Lab West Status of Women Council welcomed people Wednesday.
I'm over the moon excited. This has been something I've dreamt of since the beginning of my career with the Status of Women, and it's like I said, being able to break barriers that women or people who need a support face is huge. And the more barriers we break down, the more inclusion and equity we will have in our communities.
The space will hold the Women's Council events, but also NA and AA meetings, a teenage Inuit drumming group, art therapy classes, and other peer support groups for free. The Women's Council fundraised for the space and received $25,000 from Rio Tinto and rent for 2 years from the Unawag Indigenous Communities Foundation. It also features a large mural dedicated to missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls created by Scott Pinn.
The center is it's actually like a real important part of my life. It's where we have our NA meetings. It's where I'll be teaching my art of recovery programs. I wanted to make something beautiful, but like also impactful. You know, I didn't want to have something just so beautiful that would gloss over the issue that was really at hand.
Pin says he hopes people see the blood on the snow and are forced to have a conversation about the issue, and for Indigenous people in the community to feel supported. Heidi Adder, CBC News, Labrador City.
These are tense times for Canada's military. Uncertainty over Russia's invasion of Ukraine, scandals involving sexual misconduct, and a serious recruiting problem that has resulted in thousands of vacancies. But one bright spot is here in Atlantic Canada. We have the highest recruitment in the country. Terry Roberts has this feature report.
Nick Barfoot has been on a mission for about 6 years, acquiring a base of military training and knowledge during his years as an air cadet in Clarenville.
Everything I've done is self-taught, instrument-wise.
Studying hard to become fluent in Canada's 2 official languages.
Je suis très fier de mes accomplissements.
Immersing himself in courses such as chemistry, math, and physics. Why? He wants to be an aerospace engineer, maybe one day travel into space. Nick Barfoot hopes to attend the Royal Military College of Canada, and since his family is not swimming in money, he's prepared to dedicate his life to the military in exchange for a high-end education.
Not going out of school with debt is one of the biggest things, because a lot of people don't have the money, and I know for a fact I don't have the money to go to university, and going with student loan, I don't want to have to pay money every month, every year, whatever, for the rest of my life, essentially.
His mother is a big believer.
He's always been one to have high aspirations. Essentially, they're investing in him, and it's going to be a good investment.
Barfoot is contributing to a long-standing trend. On a per capita basis, Atlantic Canadians enlist in the regular forces at a higher rate than any other region in Canada. That's according to data supplied by the military, with Nova Scotia and New Brunswick leading the way at nearly 3 times the national average. Between 2015 and 2020, an average of 0.15% of Nova Scotia's recruitable population enlisted in the regular forces, about 314 recruits every year. The enlistment rate is virtually identical in New Brunswick. Rounding out the top 4 provinces are Prince Edward Island and Newfoundland and Labrador. The average number of annual recruits from Newfoundland and Labrador and Saskatchewan is almost identical. But Saskatchewan has a significantly larger recruitable population.
Wherever I was stationed, you always met Newfoundlanders, no matter where you went.
Dale Benson is not surprised by the data. He enlisted in '85.
When I got on the plane and went to Cornwallis, I would say there's probably a dozen of us on that plane that went and done our basic training together from Newfoundland.
Like Nick Barfoot, Benson was drawn to the military because it offered steady employment and good benefits. His choice was the fishery or a firearm.
I didn't see a future working in a fish plant in Clarenville. It wasn't really for me.
Benson specialized in armored warfare, served twice as a peacekeeper in Bosnia, spent 3 years in Germany before the end of the Cold War. He retired as a master warrant officer following a 30-year career, with 0 regrets, a lifetime of memories, and a good pension.
To me, there's no other job that I would rather do. Serve my country and to join the military.
So why are Atlantic Canadians so drawn to the military, at least in comparison to other regions of the country? Is it because we're a more aggressive culture, perhaps more patriotic? Experts say that's not the case. It's all about pragmatism. In other words, employment and educational opportunities.
In Atlantic Canada, of course, the lack of especially employment opportunities are more pronounced than in the rest of the country. We also know that, of course, rural communities are overrepresented in Atlantic Canada, and so that's another factor leading to the higher enrollment of recruits from Atlantic Canada.
Canada has an all-volunteer military. Maya Eichler says like other countries that do not have mandatory service, the military recruits many of its members from rural areas and from regions with higher jobless rates. The unemployment rate in Canada in February was under 6%. The rate in all 4 Atlantic provinces is above that and was more than double the national average in Newfoundland and Labrador at 12.3%. And there's another factor. military service can become a tradition in some families, and Atlantic Canada is steeped in military history.
A lot of people join because they have a parent who has served in the military, a grandparent, a sibling. So generally, if we look historically, we've had higher rates of enrollment from Atlantic Canada. So that kind of reinforces itself and continues to reinforce itself in the future.
But the COVID-19 pandemic, a leadership crisis intensified by damaging misconduct scandals, and now Russia's invasion of Ukraine is exposing some big problems with Canada's military, most notably the number of trained personnel. As of January 31st, the regular force had a shortage of nearly 8,000 members. That's despite an aggressive recruitment campaign. A lot has changed, however, since Dale Benson enlisted in the 80s. He had a choice between the fishery or the military. Today, there are many more career options in Newfoundland and Labrador, from oil and gas to mining to a growing high-tech sector. This teenager says a career in the military is not something his friends even talk about.
A lot of people don't really do the research about it. They don't see it as an option.
But Nick Barfoot marches to his own beat, one he hopes will include a life of military service and a good, free education. Terry Roberts, CBC News, Clarenville.
Well, high school basketball players in the province laced up their sneakers this weekend for their first provincial tournament in more than 2 years.
It's crazy in here, and that's going to be difficult, but you got to have a little bit of an internal clock, too.
An intense game there and a rowdy crowd. Some of the province's top girls teams were in St. John's to take part in the 4A Provincial Championships, and it's the first time the tournament's been able to happen since 2019. Long time. It's been a very long time coming for both athletes and officials. They say returning to school sports brings students one step closer to the full high school experience.
For a lot of these students, they've lived through grade 10, grade 11, grade 12 with COVID, and they haven't had a normal experience from a learning perspective or from an extracurricular perspective. So, I think for a lot of them, there's a lot of excitement because they don't know what to expect because they haven't been there before. So, these students that are getting ready now to go to a provincial tournament, they haven't experienced it before.
And congratulations to 4A champs, Waterford Valley High, who pulled out a win over Gonzaga.
Yeah, and sticking with sports, Team Canada is headed to the World Cup for the first time since 1986. And a soccer-loving father and son from Portugal Cove St. Philip's made the trip to Toronto to watch it live.
Yeah, big news. They were among the 29,000 rooting for Canada at the BMO field in their game against Jamaica, and Canada won, by the way, 4-0.
Yeah, and here's some of their reaction to this historic game.
In your wildest dreams!
Pretty bonkers, huh?
Yeah, really loud.
There was a crowd of 29,100 people. 152, my apologies. And it was very loud. There was drums. Everybody was jumping up and down in the stands. They were cheering ole ole.
Yeah.
Go Canada go. There was fireworks.
Yes.
Yeah, fireworks every time they scored a goal.
They scared me.
They scared you right off the bat. The place was electric. It was amazing. It was a great atmosphere to be in. We're actually here with a group of parents from St. Philip's, whose boys play both in our club as well as Fieldians in Mount Pearl. And we're all here, and we were all within spitting distance of each other in the stands, cheering on the team. This was kind of a group decision that we'd say, if Canada had a chance to clinch it or even play a game on a qualifying game here in Canada, that we'd go. And so here we are. When that first goal went in, you kind of knew Canada was there to dominate. They controlled the game right from kickoff. It was pretty awesome to see. It's pretty important. It's something that Max and I both share a love for, and that we enjoy. The car rides to and from practices and games, and all of his friends are kind of all of my friends, and they're all great teammates, and they're all a good group of boys and girls.
Back across, Buchanan!
I think it's extremely important that young players recognize that Canada can have great teams, not just in hockey, not just in curling. we've got a great athletic base of young athletes in Newfoundland and Labrador. As a matter of fact, one young player from Fieldians was invited to train with the Canadian under-21 team. It's exciting, and it's exciting for the young players coming through to see that Canada can take an international role in the sport.
Lots of flowers peeking out, but unfortunately as we head through tomorrow night, that's going to be covered in snow. I'll have the full forecast when I come back.
Well, there is a lot of history here at the century-old Majestic Theater in downtown St. John's, and now a theater company has taken over the building and wants to restore it to its former glory. We'll take you inside for a look coming up.
This weather update is brought to you by the Healthcare Foundation Home Lottery. Order tickets now at hcfhomelottery.ca.
Absolutely incredible day today. Felt almost like summer if you got out in the St. John's area and went for a walk over your lunch break. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Ashley Brawweiler joins us now. Hey, Ashley.
Hey, yes, it was an absolutely beautiful afternoon. Lack of wind really made that sunshine feel beautiful today. Let's take a look at those temperatures out there across the province, across the maritime provinces as well. Most of the warmest air actually was here in the Newfoundland and Labrador. Temperature around 9 degrees in St. John's. Say 11 is what the temperature was in Corner Brook, and you can see those temperatures through Nova Scotia, about 5 to 9 degrees today. So a number of areas seeing those nice temperatures. Warm up across Labrador as well. Happy Valley Goose Bay reached a high near 6 degrees today. Same thing in Cartwright. Now that's well above where you should be sitting this time of year. Normally hovering around the 0 degree mark, and your overnight lows should dip into about -11. So we're not quite going to see that tonight. Temperatures have dipped a little bit in some cases across the province, but still a chilly day across Labrador West or Lab West, where your wind chill still feeling more like -13. Now, taking a look at satellite radar, we did see some cloud cover move in. It's clouded over now, but along the southern areas of the island, certainly we did see some fog this afternoon. That's thanks to some of the warmer air and then obviously those cooler ocean temperatures. But our next system is going to move in as we head through the night tonight. But if you could take a look, yeah, sunshine everywhere else. Unfortunately, Burgeo socked in fog today. So taking a look at what's going to happen as we head through at least the night tonight, we are starting to see some of that shower activity show up on the radar, and that will generally be the story. Now, those temperatures along the southern areas of the island where it's much cooler, this should be snow for you. Eastern half of the island will generally see some showers at least to start, and then as we head through the overnight, that will likely change over to some flurries or light snow. Same thing along the coast eventually as you get towards the northern peninsula, or the flurries will get towards the northern peninsula as we get into the early morning hours. Temperatures tonight are going to dip. They should hover near or a degree above 0 through the overnight, a little cooler for the northern peninsula. And then those temperatures across Labrador. See Happy Valley Goose Bay only going down to 0 degrees tonight. That's 11 degrees warmer than where you should be sitting. And Lab City, you're generally sitting at around -12 as your overnight low tonight. As we head through the day tomorrow, temperatures will actually be very similar for the eastern half of the island as it is today, between 6 and 7 degrees. And then temperatures much cooler as you head towards the west coast, and that's because that area of low pressure is going to wrap around and bring in some of that cooler air. So southerly winds to start anyway, between 20 to 40 kilometers per hour, and those will be out of the southwest the further east you go. Again, 20 to 40 kilometers per hour. Up across Labrador, those temperatures will stay above 0 for Happy Valley Goose Bay, around 3 degrees, and then 1 for Cartwright. So let's time that out. As we head through tomorrow afternoon, or tomorrow morning rather, we may see a few peaks of sun, and then as the next system moves in, this one is what's going to bring some snow. It looks like may start in the early afternoon, or rather later afternoon, early evening, and it does look like it should fall as snow, which may be heavy at times for the eastern half of the island, and then eventually that will continue to track a little bit further north through the early morning hours on Wednesday, and then continue through a good chunk of the day on Wednesday. So snowfall accumulations, we're talking probably close to 10 centimeters, maybe a little bit more, but at this point it's going to be a very wet snow. The least amount of accumulation should be as we head towards the west coast, at least through Wednesday. There is some more snow on the way, but I'll have that forecast when I come back.
The historic Majestic Theater has just come under new ownership. Tara Bruce Productions wants to breathe new life into this 100-plus-year-old building by getting back to its roots as a live event theater. So let's go in and have a look around. And here we are in the main theater area. Joining me now is Chief Operating Officer Bob Hallett. So a lot of history in this building here. Can you tell us what the plan is? What is Tara Bruce planning to do with the Majestic?
Well, first and foremost, this building was built to be the most beautiful theater in downtown St. John's. And the people who built it in 19 had a grand vision for a theater that would last for the ages. And the Majestic has gone up and down the ladder many times in the last 102 years, but The goal of the team at Terra Bruce Productions is to turn this into an operating theater, a place where you go and sit in a seat and see really cool things happen on a stage. The biggest thing that makes this so exciting and so attractive to everybody at Terra Bruce is the size. This is a medium-sized theater, and right now in St. John's we have 2 giant 1,000-seat theaters, soon to be a third, and we have a tiny 160-seat theater, and we have nothing in between. And this one, when it's finished, will hold between 300 and 400 people, which will be the perfect size and the perfect stage for all kinds of things, not just what's happening with Terra Bruce, but all kinds of amazing things can happen on this stage and in this theater.
For someone who has never heard of Terra Bruce Productions, what is it you do?
Well, the very simple version is that we are a musical theater production company, and we employ about 30 artists and administrators. And we're based here in St. John's, but we also have offices in Toronto. We're primarily concerned with musical theater production and music production.
That's a lot of artists to be employed.
Yeah, it is. It feels like we're going madly off in all directions some days, but somehow it all gets done. And I'm really proud of the work that we've managed to do so far.
Can you tell us a bit more about the history of the Majestic? This building is over 100 years old. Before Terra Bruce, the Pentecostal Church owned this building for a time. Can you sort of take us back and tell us about some of the events that have happened here over the years?
Well, you know, in the St. John's of 1918, St. John's was the capital of a small country, and so the sort of entertainment people had, came off ships from Liverpool and came off from Boston and New York. It didn't come from Toronto then, so people saw operettas and light theater and pantomimes and all kinds of, something happened here every single night, sometimes multiple times a day. They would have had, people come in doing speakers, they would have had magicians. It would have been an incredible spot to come and be thoroughly entertained.
A mob rallied at the Majestic Theater in St. John's. Following day swelled to 10,000. They marched through the streets to Colonial Building.
The famous riot in 1932 where Sir Robert Bond almost lost his life, the meeting took place here. And then, the revolution was plotted and everyone advanced out the building and walked up Military Road to advance upon the Colonial Building. So, and there was many meetings here during the Confederation debates in the late 1940s. And over its life here, moving in the 80s and 90s, it was all kinds of different dance clubs and live music venues. So there's history in every stick of wood in this building.
What kind of responsibility do you feel towards this building and what you do with it?
Huge. I certainly feel that as the artistic associate. I believe that this theater is a jewel of downtown St. John's, and I'm really looking forward to bringing that back to life, but also honoring those who have worked on this building since it was created, the people who have done the work, keeping it going over the years, so honoring the work that they've done, but making it something new and beautiful and bringing it back to work with revitalizing the downtown core.
And what about the name? Are you going to keep the name Majestic?
I don't know, that's a good question. We keep, there's a seesaw debate going on between everybody in the company because on one hand it has tremendous history. On the other hand, we're trying to do something new and something amazing. So, I don't know.
And what's the timeline here? When do you hope to be up and running?
Everybody knows with renovations, who knows where we'll end up. But right now on paper, it's an ambitious deadline. But right now, we're gunning for being open sometime this fall. So we're going to try and do an opening somewhere in there. If everything goes as planned, if everything goes well, with a little bit of contingency built in there, we'll be open in the fall.
That's very exciting.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
And they're going to be gutting that whole interior of it, so it's going to look very different than what it looks there. And Anthony, we talked about all of that history at the Majestic. Well,
Right.
I also have some history with the Majestic when it housed a dance bar known as Merlin's, and this was 22 years ago.
Okay.
And I can't believe I'm going to do this, but here's a video from that time that you might get a kick out of. Just have a look.
All right.
Saturday Hot Mix is about to take up residence right here at Merlin.
So join us, the RSPB team, for giveaways, special events, and wild time.
Oh my!
Yeah. Yep.
That's you.
Yes.
Oh, isn't that sweet? Wow. That's Steve Kent next to you?
Yes.
Wow.
Future MHA.
It's like a time machine.
It really is. Yeah. Every once in a while, every couple of years, that video resurfaces. Someone sends it to me as if, I'd never seen it before.
You
haven't
changed a bit.
Those bangs, Anthony. What was I thinking?
That's great.
do have like apps that basically give us the notifications that the airstrike might happen and we should go to the shelters. Like some people have shelters, some people go to their basements, or like in my case, we go into the underground parking lot.
Well, stay with us. That's just ahead.
Russia attacked Lviv over the weekend. We'll check in with a local company's IT specialist who's based in that Ukrainian city. Now to the war in Ukraine and a local connection to the conflict. Pavlo Pastashenko is a Ukrainian IT expert who works for the St. John's company Blue Drop. He is in Lviv, and given events over the weekend, we thought it would be a good idea to check in with him once again. So Pavlo, when we last spoke, the war really hadn't come to Lviv yet. What has changed?
Well, we had a couple of airstrikes on our city. I guess a week ago or 10 days ago, we had one major airstrike on one of our peacekeeping centers that's 40 kilometers from Lviv, actually really close to Polish border. It's like maybe 20-30 kilometers from Polish border. And just this Saturday, we had airstrikes in our city, like exactly in our city. And yeah, 2 places were damaged. The one would be like an oil facility, like where they keep, gas and I guess oil. The other place would be like a tank repairing facility, which is located like in a city, because the first one is like on the outskirts, but this tank repairing facility is actually in the city.
Like city
So
itself.
they targeted that.
Yeah. So Pavlo, when these airstrikes are happening, are you staying in your house or your home, or where do you go? What do you do?
We do have like apps, basically give us the notifications that the airstrike might happen and we should go to the shelters. Like some people have shelters, some people go to their basements, or like in my case, we go into the underground parking lot. Much safer there than being like in the house.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what it is.
You know, sort of watching the coverage from here, we see that most of the war still seems to be in the eastern part of the country, as well as parts of the south and north as well, near the capital in Kyiv. When you see what's happened to other cities, Mariupol, for example, what goes through your mind?
This is not only the war; it's a genocide. This is a genocide, because killing the civilians, the families, small children, like in the case was that theater you might heard of, where lots of people were hiding, in the underground basement, and they specifically targeting these places and killing civilians right on the street. This is genocide. I don't have any other word.
Mm-hmm. One last question for you. I think, as you know, the Ukrainian government has allowed women, children, and seniors to leave, whereas men are being told they have to stay. Do you feel as if you're forced to stay there, or are you kind of voluntarily there? What are your thoughts about that?
I'm definitely not feeling like I'm forced to stay. That's for sure. And I kind of get why they did that, because it's not like, I don't know what to compare, right? But we're in a state of war where we kind of need need people to at least not if like go into the exactly to fight or war. Like they need help, right? They need help here to kind of help with anything they can. And obviously, like people that have children, they can go like with families, but like as for me, I don't have any children. Why should I go? I'll be way more helpful here. Right. And besides that, like even if they would let me in, like I wouldn't go.
Okay. Well, listen, Pavlo, I'm glad you're safe. I hope you stay safe, and we'll talk again. All the best to you and your family.
Thank you.
Well, the UN Refugee Agency says nearly 4 million people have fled the war in Ukraine, but it also says the number of those leaving the country has been declining. In the first 2 weeks after the Russian invasion, about 2.5 million people left. The second 2 weeks saw roughly half of that number. And in the past 24 hours, only 45,000 people have left. There are many who want to leave but can't. It's believed 160,000 people remain trapped in the besieged city of Mariupol. And the mayor says 5,000 have been killed. Diplomatic efforts to end the war are ramping up again. A Russian delegation has arrived for talks in Turkey, and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has hinted at concessions, saying he's willing to consider military neutrality. Face-to-face talks are set to resume tomorrow in Istanbul.
Cool. Okay, we're gonna go see some wildlife.
We might see the muskrat. Like, this is really nice muskrat habitat.
It's very deeply ingrained to be afraid of bats. They're really important.
The first bird to be threatened, really, would be the game with global warming.
It's only found in this little tiny strip. It's part of Newfoundland, right?
U.S. Secretary Antony Blinken joined other officials over the weekend working to soften interpretations of Joe Biden's statement Saturday about Vladimir Putin remaining in power.
I think the President, the White House, made the point last night that, quite simply, President Putin cannot be empowered to wage war or engage in aggression against Ukraine or anyone else.
For God's sake, this man cannot remain in power.
Those were the words that triggered the questions and the explanations. The White House insists Biden was not referring to any regime change in Russia and that the U.S. has no plans aimed in that direction. Well, Anthony, staying with the United States, it's the biggest night in Hollywood. Did you happen to catch the Oscars last night?
No, I'm not much of an award show kind of guy. I did follow a lot of the coverage though, and I know they were worried about ratings, and at first, I think people know what we're going to be talking about.
Yes.
People thought that maybe it was a staged moment, maybe even part of the show. But no, Eli Glasner has more on last night's dramatic award show.
It was a night that was supposed to celebrate the best in film. It was a night that was supposed to increase sagging Oscar ratings. In the end, all derailed by the slap heard round the world. It began when Chris Rock was on stage and made a joke at the expense of Jada Pinkett Smith. Jada Pinkett Smith suffers from a condition called alopecia, which causes hair loss. After that joke, Will Smith stormed the stage. Oh, wow! Slapping Chris Rock, who tried to laugh it off as Smith returned to his seat, cursing loudly as the comedian. And later on, Will Smith returned to the stage, but this time as an Oscar winner, now winning for his role in King Richard, taking home an Oscar statue as Best Actor.
In this business, you got to be able to have people disrespecting you. And you got to smile and you got to pretend like that's okay.
Now, of course, there were many other winners at the 94th Annual Academy Awards, but the biggest of all, or at least in terms of number, may have been Dune, the remarkable science fiction epic directed by Denis Villeneuve. Again and again, we heard his name as the movie took home 6 Oscars in a variety of categories, but perhaps the most impressive win is the little film that could. I'm talking about Coda. Yes, I predicted it, but still a stunning result. This film about a deaf family and their daughter who wants to sing won in every single category it entered, including Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Picture, that's the big prize, but also making history with Troy Kotsur becoming the first male deaf actor to win an Oscar.
To my mom, my dad, and my brother Mark, they're not here today, but look at me now, I did it.
Remarkable that Kotsur had almost decided to pack it in. He was frustrated he wasn't getting enough parts as a deaf actor, but then he got the call to audition for Coda, and now he's an Oscar winner. Eli Glasner, CBC News, Los Angeles.
Well, we woke up to a beautiful day today. Unfortunately, when we wake up Wednesday morning, it's going to look like someone kind of shook the snow globe for parts of the province. Let's take a look at what's going to happen. That snow will move in Tuesday night, continue for a good chunk of the morning, and even all day for parts of the province, particularly the west coast as we head through Wednesday afternoon. That area of low pressure is going to stick with us for a couple of days as well, and then bring some more snow to parts of the west coast. You could see even more accumulation as we head through Wednesday. Temperatures will dip a little bit as well. Most of the province will be seeing those temperatures between 1 to about 4 degrees, a little cooler for Lab West, where you'll hover around -1. But overall, it will be an unsettled Wednesday with the potential for even a few showers in the mix as well through the day. Now, as we head into Wednesday evening and Thursday morning, like I said, that system's going to stick around, but it does look like we can see the potential for a few more showers in the mix, maybe even some sunshine in the afternoon on Thursday as the system weakens and eventually pulls away. So areas through central, maybe even eastern Newfoundland may see a few peaks of sun. Now, temperatures, again, not really moving too much, between 2 to 4 degrees, a little bit cooler for the northern peninsula, and then temperatures across Labrador aren't going to move either. So you're looking between 0 and 3 degrees, a little cooler for Nain, where you're going to hover around -2, but generally unsettled with the chance of either showers or flurries through the day on Thursday. Now, looking ahead, temperatures should stay above 0 right through Friday, even into Saturday, but it does look like things will get more unsettled as we head towards the middle of the weekend, with the potential for some showers. Overnight lows looking like they're going to dip near or just below 0. Same thing through central Newfoundland with some showers possible, maybe even a few flurries in the mix for western Newfoundland as those temperatures drop overnight. But overall, it is looking like an unsettled start to the weekend. And then for eastern Labrador, you're looking at above 0 right through Saturday. However, unsettled, some flurries the story for you as you head into Saturday. And then same thing for western Labrador, above 0, just barely, but either snow moving in Thursday night into Friday, and then some flurries will be the story on Saturday. A weather picture of the day today is the morning view of the Cape in Calvert. Thank you so much to Denise for that. If you have any weather photos, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
So you sort of just take a little dive right off that pier.
Yeah.
If today was the day. Right?
It almost looks warm enough.
There's no ice there, at least.
Well, Anthony, it's so nice to have you back tonight. Friday, of course, you were off because you were hosting that big fundraiser for the Symphony Orchestra, the Casino Royale, 60 years of James Bond. How did it go?
It was so incredible. I know people are expecting, he's of course going to say good things about it, but it really was one of those concerts that I think people talk about for a very long time, because all of the performances were so good, and I think people, having waited 2 years to actually be together in any kind of concert venue, there was a feeling of electricity. And it was really interesting being backstage with performers. I won't name them because we know almost all of them, but they were actually nervous. I was nervous, and
really?
I don't usually
You were nervous?
I was nervous, yeah, and I don't usually get nervous at these kinds of things because you do them, but after 2 years of not being able to appear with anybody, you kind of get rusty. Are they going to laugh at my jokes? Is any of this going to work or not? So it was quite a night. So I want to thank the NSO for inviting me to host that, and I know people really enjoyed themselves, so it was great, and I remember that concert for a very long time. But one thing that was really quite interesting at the start of the concert, as the concert itself was really emotional, but at the very beginning of the concert, they decided to actually perform the Ukrainian national anthem. So they had the flag up there, kind of a show of solidarity, and our cameras were there, and we'd like to share that performance with you as we leave you tonight.
Good night.